nice to be in orbit.
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine.
Lift off and the clock has started.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Geekosphere. It's Nathan and I am back with Luke and PJ, and it is time to dig down, actually into, I feel like, what was originally part of our intention with this podcast is not so much, we will do current event stuff, but tonight we are taking a leap backwards. Yes, exactly.
Nice.
We're going to spend some time looking back in the past and talk about things that we love so much, but first, because it is the Geekosphere, the very first thing we do in our episode is we talk about what are we geeking on. And I think we're going to start with PJ. PJ, how are you this week?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So, PJ, the question on the table is, what are you geeking on?
I've got a few things I'm geeking on right now.
You have way more than I do. I don't. Lately, it's not been a lot of
me,
geeking on my part.
It's trying to cram as much into as little time as possible is really
Gotcha.
the
Okay.
problem.
Yeah.
Still in the xCloud trial.
Oh yeah, that's right.
preview.
You're one of the chosen.
Yeah. I'm actually playing through Batman: The Enemy Within. It's the Telltale.
No. Yep, I have
the
that.
second game in the Telltale
Oh, it's the
series.
second one. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it's the introduction of somebody very important to Batman, I guess.
Yeah. I think.
It's pretty obvious. It's the Joker. So
Yeah. Well, of course, you have to have
Thanks
the
for
Joker.
spoiling it for us.
but
I mean, who's the
there's-
Joker?
There's really, really cool ways about how he interacts with both Bruce and Batman.
Okay.
It's a really cool story, and it's the whole series has been a different take.
Yeah.
which
yeah.
I've been.
It
I've
is,
been-
and I knew that because it is a very almost a skewed take of Batman.
Well, in the first game, like in the first chapter, so I'm
yeah,
not giving too
it's
much
very,
away here,
very different.
You find out Thomas Wayne was not the saint. That
Yeah, he
is
was
made
not.
out
He
to
was.
be.
Wasn't he? It's like he's an organized crime.
He was in
figure.
league
Yeah.
with Falcone.
Yes, that's
and,
right.
And Mayor Hill and everything. So, and the second game is it's kind of dealing with the fallout of that, and now Bruce is having to deal with a whole lot more.
A lot of daddy issues.
A lot of just issues.
Just issues and
Just
I mean,
issues.
if you guys have never read Batman or seen the movies, Bruce has a lot of issues.
He's got some problems.
Yeah. What kind of a man dresses up as a bat and steals my press?
Love it.
Yeah.
Still, I think
I can't
still
do
my
Jack Nicholson.
It's still my favorite Batman movie. I'm not gonna
Really?
lie.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
I like
Michael Keaton is
the
Batman.
later ones, but
Yeah.
that one's still my favorite. if
Oh,
I'm-
wait
if
till
I'm
we
being
get to
real
our
honest.
list today.
Sweet. I will say that's the only
that's some
Batman I think
foreboding.
I've seen.
Nice,
To be honest
okay.
with you,
Oh, you've only seen the first one?
I've only seen I saw
You
the
saw the
second
Keaton
one.
ones.
That one was awful.
Yeah,
but the
Batman
first
Returns
one,
was terrible.
Yeah, Keaton is what I mean.
Keaton's
Yeah.
Batman.
Keaton's
Okay.
Batman.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got By the way, I did finally jump on Game Pass for PC.
Nice. I'm so
because it
proud
was
of you.
for $1.
Yes.
And so I'm playing Outer Worlds and a bunch. So I'm going back and getting all these games that I've never played before on PC, and just kind of
Are you playing Ori and the Blind Forest?
not yet.
You
I
should
haven't
play,
had time to sit down and put a controller into my computer and play.
You should
I
play
haven't-
Ori and the
I
Blind
haven't had
Forest.
time to
It is
actually play a
great
game. Like I don't even know how
Well,
you guys have the time.
technically, well, honestly, I sometimes play like right before I have right while I'm having my coffee. When I say play, I haven't played that much.
Yeah.
You know, maybe on a Friday morning, but not a lot.
But yeah, that's what I'm mainly geeking out on. That and also playing through Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
That's
so
right,
those
you
are
were
the two
doing
games that I'm. That is a very long game. I
Most Assassin's Creeds aren't they?
well, this one is it's a lot more RPG
oh,
focused.
okay, yeah.
You get 10 hours and finally leave the first island.
Oh, nice,
that you're
okay.
on, and then you see the opening credits,
Oh, that's awesome.
and it's like, oh.
10 hours into and then you get the opening.
And then you
credits.
look at the wide map and you're like, oh, oh my, there's going to be a lot to do in this
that's
game.
awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, that and I'm really enjoying that game as well. I like the different take on combat. I like the different. You can actually play through as Cassandra or
Okay,
Alexios.
yeah.
Everything I read said Alexios was a big dud, so play through as Cassandra. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Well, at
So
least you
you're-
got that
you're a girl.
advice.
I am.
You're a girl.
Hey, there's no problem with that.
It's fine.
As long as you're
it's
okay with it.
It's the 2000s,
It's-
2010s, 2020s. I don't even know what year it is.
It's
so.
fine.
I'm still in
that's why
1985. So
it's
we're
Yeah,
good.
they're still 1985. Isn't that a song?
1985.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
it is.
Almost started singing. Well, cool. So yeah, that's Luke. What are you into?
Well, I'm into Pitfall.
Nice.
for
Always go with the
television.
classics.
That's right. Pitfall is still my class.
Yes.
I actually really do
Gotta
want to
go
get.
left.
I do want to get one of those. I guess they have the Atari 2600 like emulators, and so I see
Yes,
those in
yes.
Walmart or whatever, and I'm like, I really got to get one of those because that would be so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, actually, funny enough, the last time we had a recording,
Yes.
I talked about a board game,
Uh-huh.
and now I'm talking about a board game yet again.
Really, you're actually talking about a board game,
Another
and I'm not.
board game. I know, isn't it
I'm
crazy?
not talking about board
I
games.
found this, and you may have already seen this, but I've had it on my phone waiting for our next
Okay.
recording. Funko Games announces Back to the Future, Back in Time board game.
Oh, do they have now? Is it
Wow,
one
alright.
of? Okay, so let me ask this: is it one of the Funkoverse games, or is it?
Apparently, it's a Funkoverse, I think.
But is it the figures?
It's a fully cooperative, family-oriented game for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and up, that plays in under an hour.
Okay,
In the
I'm
game-
looking
Sign
it up
me up.
right now.
In the game, each player takes on the role of a major character: Marty, Doc, Jennifer Parker, and Einstein the dog. And the objective is to get all the characters to move around 1955 Hill Valley to
All
find
right, yeah.
objects to fix Doc's famous DeLorean time machine.
Okay, so this is interesting because it sounds awesome, and it looks like.
Looks cool.
Well, I'm looking at I'm reading up on it. And I'm trying to see because Funko has now gotten into the board game world, and they actually came out with a series, the Funkoverse, which they have Batman, Harry Potter, the Golden Girls.
That's cool.
They're coming out with Jurassic Park, and they're all interchangeable. So you can actually have the Golden Girls go up against Batman. I think there's a Rick and Morty one too, but it's essentially it's a tiny miniature skirmish game.
I can see it here.
Yeah, you can see it there.
And at the end, it actually says instead is not connected visually to Funko or the new Funkoverse gaming engine.
Okay, so it's not, but they're producing the game.
Yep.
Okay, so
They're
that's cool.
producing the
Oh wait, I'm looking at a picture of it. Okay, so that's pretty awesome.
Well, what's cool, it comes in with a fully painted DeLorean miniature.
Ah,
So
yes, I
I'd
can
be-
see that.
I'd buy it just for that.
Yeah,
So
that's
anyway,
awesome.
I saw that and was like, I think I want to get that. So,
Okay, well, I hope it's good because a lot of times what happens is the IPs for some of these more famous properties, tend to not be good, don't translate well into games. However, there is a Back to the Future Funkoverse coming.
Oh,
The skirmish game, they're doing a
sounds-
Funkoverse, and it's just Marty and Doc.
Oh,
But that means you can interchange them with like Jurassic Park.
that would
There's a
be cool.
Jurassic Park set coming out, so and they're not too super expensive. Like you can get them on Amazon for like $27 for the base set, which comes with 4 figures, and then a map, and then there's expansions. So with the Batman one, if you want to get Robin, you have to buy the Robin Catwoman, and you can get them anywhere. They're at Walmart, and apparently they're really good. I mean, I know lots of people who really love them. So.
I'm just imagining Goldblum and Doc Brown and teaming up.
See, and it's not, and it isn't like peak Goldblum where his
Yeah.
shirt's unbuttoned. It's just Ian Malcolm, that kind of thing.
I'm
But-
actually still kind of hooked on the Golden Girls.
I know,
Can
there's
we
a
have
Golden
that?
Girls
The
one.
Golden Girls one would be awesome.
Yeah, so you get to.
I don't even know what to say about
Blanche
that.
and Rose, and I'm on.
So there's
I'm on board with
and I
that.
can even list them. There's Harry Potter, there's the Golden Girls.
So Blanche and Doc Brown just go off on an adventure
that's
together.
disturbing.
That, knowing who Blanche's character is,
Yes, that's
very
really
disturbing.
bothersome.
Thanks a lot, PJ.
Thanks, PJ.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, so you have that, and then what else is coming?
Picture it, 1942.
Okay, stop. I don't need to know. So yeah. Anyway, it's a great game from what I understand. So Luke with the board games. I don't even think I've brought a board game yet.
I know. So it's been kind of funny that I've been bringing
All
up the
right.
word.
Well, I have
so
two.
I'll have to remember that.
2 things I'm geeking out
Okay.
on,
All right.
and one I
Let's hear
don't
'em.
possess yet. But the first one is okay. So I think I mentioned maybe last time that ever since Dungeons and Dragons 5e came out, 5th edition came out, I've gotten back into role playing games. So I was never really heavily into them. Teaching my kids and stuff. It's been kind of fun. But in the process of that, I've also started branching out into other RPGs. So role playing games for the uninitiated.
Nerd alert.
Nerd alert. So I'm into more RPGs, but Free League, and I don't remember if I mentioned this before.
Free League.
Free League, a publisher of RPGs, just came out with the Alien role-playing game. It was a Kickstarter. It was a crowdfunding.
Yeah, that was the one that we had at Fan
The
Expo.
one you had at Fan Expo. So I finally got a copy of the book.
Cool.
It's a beautiful book. Like the book is amazing. It's got all original artwork. But the system is pretty simple. You know, a lot of times people complain about RPGs that, you know, they're too complicated. But this one's actually pretty easy. But what I love about it, the two things, the thing I love the most, one, besides the fact that it's Alien, and it does dive into all the lore surrounding all the movies, so you get little bits and pieces of everything, is that you can play the game in two ways. You can play a long campaign, which really you don't have to necessarily structure, and you don't even ever have to bring the alien into it. Like you can do all sorts of different things with it, the way it's set up. But a long campaign is you can either be like terraformers, you can be colonial marines, you can be truck drivers, you know, you can be the crew of the Nostromo, or you can be like corporate people, and you just kind of go off on these adventures. But they have a new thing called cinematic experience, which is meant to be a one-off. It's meant to be a one-off adventure with a pre-made character, or you could probably make some characters and yourself and hand them over to and design it that way. But it's designed to play like a movie, like an alien movie, and so not everybody is supposed to survive.
Okay.
So you don't play it with a character you're trying to take long term,
Right.
but you play it like the plot of an alien movie. And so really it comes down to, can you force your own agenda and survive? And so it looks really cool. And there's a lot of, and with that, actually, there's technically three things I have. With that, you know, a lot of people talk about finding time to play RPGs or even getting people into room. And there's several different online hosting platforms, usually just on a website. There's some software, but you have to buy a license to use them, which is annoying. But I've used Roll20 a lot, which is the one most people know. But there's a new one. I don't know how long it's been around. It's called Astral Tabletop, and I bought a subscription to it. I think it was like $9 a month. But I can host games, and I can also invite other people who want to play on the free version. I can invite you into the games that I've created. You can load up all your maps. You can put everything you need on there. In terms of comparison to Roll20, I find it to be much, much, much easier to use. And a lot of what you can do, the textures and the layers and things, I think have a little more, they're easier to work with, so I really like that. Now, technically the official second one is board game, actually.
Hey now.
We've probably talked, I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but one of the biggest games of the last 4 or 5 years has been Gloomhaven. And if you haven't heard of Gloomhaven, it's this massive dungeon crawl / legacy / almost like a deck builder. It has all these different mechanics in it. And the box weighs 22 pounds.
Yeah,
It's
we
gigantic.
We contributed to purchasing.
You did
that.
contribute to give me that for a gift, and I've never finished it. I've played one scenario out of it, and again, it's another one of these where you got to find people to throw in, because it's a game meant to go on and on and on until you finish. And it's 90 some scenarios to play through, and each scenario is basically one day of gaming, maybe more. So you know you're looking at over a year if you did it once a week. So the designer is now coming out with a sequel.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
He's coming out with a sequel called Frosthaven.
Okay.
And the Kickstarter begins on March 24th.
Decidedly less gloomy. Is that?
I don't know. It looks more like it literally
More
I'll be honest with you. It looks like a Skyrim dungeon crawl.
Okay.
A massive Skyrim dungeon crawl. Oh. And so I'm going to keep a very careful eye. The problem was when Gloomhaven launched, it sold out, right? The Kickstarter, unless you got in on the Kickstarter, you didn't get it. And it's expensive. I mean, you're talking about $100+ game for the most of the time. So who knows what
that takes some dedication.
It takes dedication, and I got to finish the first one. So anyway, that's what I'm geeking on.
Well,
so,
I want to ask a question about the alien. So I can play Private Hudson.
If you wanted to create him,
walk around going game over.
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
game
You
over.
can play him. I could create him
for
in a
long,
scenario
you can't.
and just hand him to you and
Yeah.
say, okay, this is your issue, this is your agenda, this is what you got to do. And the game involves, stabbing people in the back. If the corporate guy comes in, Burke comes in, he can do that. But at the same time, you don't really want to play the movie again, right? You want to do something new.
Different.
One of the pre-made adventures that comes with it to practice is actually the hours leading up to the fall of Hadley's Hope, which is the colony. So you kind of get to play through what happens when the aliens actually take over.
Nice.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so it's called Hadley's Last Hope is the name of the adventure.
Very
So,
cool.
How original.
Yeah, how original. So anyway, that's in the base book. So I'm looking forward to what they're going to come out with because it's pretty cool. And it's got a really healthy Reddit community coming up with stuff. So.
PJ, I like to say, for someone who said he didn't have a lot that he was into, it sounded like a lot he was into.
Okay, fine. So what? I talked a long time. I didn't
talked
talk
about
a lot.
Back to the Future board game, and that's
I didn't talk a lot last time, so
It's all good.
it's all good. All right, it's my turn.
Like
All
I
right.
said, lots of love around this
Lots
table.
of love around this
Lots of
table.
love.
I think it's late on a Thursday. All right, so what we talked about is originally when we sat down and talked about doing this, one of the things we threw out is kind of setting us apart a little bit. There's a lot of podcasts out there talk about geek culture, talk about pop culture
definitely.
stuff. One of the things we wanted to do is do something along the lines, probably more often than not, a little more on the retro side. Because we all grew up in kind of a golden age of pop culture, the 80s, the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, I think is a golden age of pop culture. And, there's a lot of things we loved. There are a lot of things that we thought were amazing that maybe aren't so much anymore, and but yet still hold a firm place in our hearts. And so today, what we wanted to talk about were our favorite movies that have not aged as well. And now, in order to let's lay down some parameters here. When I say haven't aged well, doesn't mean you have to not like the movie anymore. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy the movie. But it does mean you have to have an honest assessment of the film and go, you know what? As much as I love this, it really doesn't. There's parts of it, or maybe a significant portion of it, that does not hold up.
No, that's fair.
That's got to be the criteria.
Okay.
And I know that we went to work and we have lists, and I know our lists are going to have some overlap.
Maybe.
Potentially.
So here's the rule: if somebody has already said your movie, you're going to have to come up with something different. So hopefully you've thought of enough.
Can we say, oh, that was one of mine also?
You can say that was one of yours. You can say that was one of yours, but then you have to fill the spot. And for the sake of time, we're going to give you 3.
Okay, 3.
We're going to give you 3 each,
Okay.
including me. And that doesn't mean we won't allow you to list the others, but you're only allowed to really talk about 3.
And we do round robin?
Yeah, we can do round robin.
I
think what we'll do is this time is we started with PJ last time. We're going to start with Luke now.
Okay, I'm going to start with this one because I thought maybe this was on your list.
You thought this was on my list? All right, here we go.
Because we've talked about this.
Okay, go for it.
This movie came out in 1983, American sci-fi movie, one of the first cool 3D movies I ever saw.
Okay.
And this would be none other than Space Hunter: Adventures
You
in the
took it. You
Forbidden
took
Zone.
it. That was my number 1, and you took Space Hunter. Oh.
So, yes,
Oh,
for those
you
of you
took it.
listening at home, it is on Nathan's list.
It is very much on my list. I can't believe you did that.
Well, we can both talk about
We
it.
can both talk about it, yeah.
Because for me, I know you had a real good. I had a love for this movie.
I did.
All
but
right,
Go ahead.
walk me through it. I haven't seen
You've never seen Space Hunter?
this. Okay, so imagine Molly Ringwald in a space adventure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this
I'm already in, but
Yep.
okay.
So this is
You might want to hold on to that.
Yep, this is Peter Strauss. I don't know if you remember Peter Strauss.
I remember Peter Strauss.
Peter Strauss, Molly Ringwald, Ernie Hudson.
Okay.
Ernie?
Yep. So this is pre Ghostbusters,
Okay.
just about a year before.
Yeah.
And then Michael Ironside.
Michael Ironside playing one of the coolest characters in his entire career.
Not just the Michael Ironside character.
No, he is playing a character called Overdog.
Yep.
And he is. We'll have to get
Of
a
course
picture.
he is.
Yes, he is. We'll have to put a picture on the website. He's playing a character called Overdog. And Luke.
No, you're good. Go for it. I mean, because I knew you had. I knew this movie would be on your list
This
because
movie's-
of how much you love it. I loved it for the aspect of just how cool it was in 1983.
Yeah.
Because this was one of the very first. I think I saw another 3D movie before this, and I'm trying to remember what it was. But in fact, I think I have it on this list too. But it was so cool because we were one of the first people to have HBO. And this, they actually had a behind the scenes.
They did. I remember
behind
that.
the scenes of this movie.
Yes.
And so it was such a big deal. And then the movie boxed office 16 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it
so-
wasn't like.
And it
Even in the 80s, that's not that great.
and it
No.
was $14 million to make.
Oops.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it did not do very well at the movie theaters. It was a Columbia Pictures movie.
But
It's really cool though because of just that 3D aspect of
Yeah,
it and how
it's
cool
a lot
it
of
was.
fun.
But I know
Well,
you
it's-
have an additional love for it.
It's kind of like a sci-fi weird. You know, it is. It's very bizarre. So essentially what's happening is this guy Overdog is kidnapping beautiful women to drain them of their essence. And there's also some other.
There's a little weirdness
There's a little
to it.
weirdness going on, so that he can be he can be, kind of stay alive. Now, here's the thing: he is the precursor of the Rise of Skywalker Palpatine, because he rides on this giant mechanical arm, though it's not attached to his head. He's got a breathing apparatus.
He's got claws.
And he's got these giant metal 3-fingered claws that he's basically a cyborg.
Sure.
And essentially these 3 beautiful women are kidnapped, and this guy Wolf, who's a bounty hunter,
yeah.
and he's got a really attractive cyborg partner named Chalmers, who you don't know is a robot till she gets killed.
Whoops.
And he picks up this like orphaned waif that's Molly Ringwald, and Ernie Hudson's a rival bounty hunter, blah 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 blah. And they go on this adventure, and there's all these weird things. There's like crazy Amazon mermaid women, and there's a dragon, and finally they have to go through this obstacle course and yada. But here's the best part about this whole movie.
Is this best in air quotes, or is this actual
This
best?
is one of the best bits of trivia about this movie. Do you know who executive produced this movie?
Probably not. No, I actually don't think I know that.
Ivan Reitman.
I'm sure it's on this list. But,
Ivan Reitman.
which is why Ernie Hudson was.
Is
in
why
Ghostbusters.
Ernie Hudson, the man who brought us Ghostbusters, is the executive producer on this movie. And it's really I actually have it in the house on a double feature DVD, Space
Okay.
Hunter and Krull.
So apparently, I'm coming up with 3 more of my own. So,
Why?
oh, I'm just kidding.
Okay, you can come up with
I
3
know.
more.
I think it's funny is that it's a space movie. And it has Ernie Hudson, who plays, and we know Ernie Hudson's an
Yeah.
African American. And of course, the name they give him, Washington.
Yeah, they do. They give him the name Washington.
And I'm like, of course they did. So,
Oh my.
but I really loved the movie just for the aspect of it being 3D and all the cool effects in it, and the Overdog was now look backing, it's just cheesy as all get out, but it was pretty cool back then, and how they actually made it. Him in that, and Michael Ironside in that outfit.
What's really funny is the movie itself kind of has a retro sci-fi look to it.
Yeah, it does.
Everything's kind of bubbly and electric. The electricity things shooting everywhere. So yeah, even for a movie that we would consider retro based on the fact that it came out in the 80s, it has a 50s kind of retro
it
feel.
almost looks
Gotcha.
like a laser tag.
Yeah, some of it does.
Like a laser tag thing,
Yeah.
like a course, I guess you'd say. So,
Yeah. So anyway,
that was the first one on my list, and obviously the first one on Nathan.
that was the first one on mine. PJ, why don't you go?
All
Let's
right.
see if you're on my list too.
I'm gonna go probably something out of left field here. I'm gonna go with an animated movie
Okay.
that I went to see, and I was dying to see this movie, and I was actually staying with my grandpa at the time, and he was like, "You want to go see a movie?" I'm like, "Sure, let's go see Transformers the movie."
Oh yes, because you just took your boys to see this.
Oh yeah, they saw it. We saw
Yeah.
it.
I'd like to clarify that's not on my list.
That's fine.
It's not on
That's
mine
fine.
either.
It was one of my
because it's
favorite
the greatest
movies.
movie ever. No, I'm just kidding.
One of my favorite movies. Like only later in life did I realize like why they were killing everybody off, and it was just because they had to find a good way to sell the new toys.
Yeah, there's a new line coming out. You gotta.
But like literally, so I'm in this movie,
Yeah.
and like all I knew was it was a Transformers movie, and I was watching the cartoon every day. I loved the cartoon, so I was like, I'm gonna love this. It's gonna be
Yeah,
great.
it's gonna be awesome.
And literally within the first 10 minutes of the movie, all my favorite characters are now dead,
Yes,
including,
Optimus Prime
spoiler alert, Optimus Prime. It's not really spoiler alert for a movie that's 40 years
came out in
old, I guess.
1986.
Yeah, it's probably, anyway. But yeah, they kill off Optimus Prime even, and it's like, I don't know what to think.
Yeah, exactly.
There are kids around me crying. Like, I wasn't crying, but I was like, well, that kind of stinks. Like,
Yeah.
like he's my favorite character, and they just killed him off. Now I have to like this hot rod guy, I guess,
You had
and-
Ultra Magnus.
Ultra Magnus, and he's
Yes.
kind of a lame leader.
Yeah,
'cause
wasn't
he's-
that Robert Stack?
Yes, it was. So looking back, like the voice cast of this movie is, oh my goodness. They had Leonard Nimoy.
I know, Nimoy
They had
was in it.
Orson Welles.
Yeah, it was one of Orson. Was it Orson Welles' last role?
It
I
might
think
have
it
been
was.
as Unicron.
Yeah, he was Unicron.
I don't remember his name, but the dude who talked fast in all the fast talking
Yep,
commercials.
yep.
Oh,
the
the
Micro
FedEx
Machines
guy.
guy. The
Yeah,
Micro
the
Machines
Micro
guy.
Or
Machines guy.
FedEx. He did
Yep.
FedEx.
Yeah, he did FedEx too.
Judd Nelson was in it.
He
was
was.
Hot Rod.
He was
Judd
Hot
Nelson?
Rod. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
Hot Rod.
I've
Who
never
played the
seen this.
kid?
I've never seen this.
I don't think the kid was anybody.
I don't think he was anybody.
Like, obviously, Peter Cullen.
It has a Weird Al. It plays
Yes,
Dare to Be Stupid.
Dare to Be Stupid, which was one of Weird Al's only like originals.
Yeah. And then
Which my kids love that song.
that's a
by
great
the way.
song. But it also has The Touch.
Oh yeah,
Which
Stan Bush. The
Stan
Touch,
Bush.
And he's got another one. Dare.
Dare.
Is this other great song on that soundtrack. So after playing this movie for my boys, like I listened to this soundtrack probably 800 times.
It's such a great
And,
80s
It
piece.
is so, and like looking back, yeah, I get the point of it, but yeah, I love this movie enough that like when it came out 25 years later on DVD, I bought it again, and still watch it occasionally with my boys. If it's on, like I'm stopping down to watch it.
Nice. Okay, so this is not that I'm endorsing this movie in any way, but you also know where The Touch popped up again, do you?
I do.
Do you know, Luke?
I don't think I do.
It is the song that Mark Wahlberg, when he tries to launch his singing career in Boogie Nights.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes.
Now.
That is the song.
Unfortunately, I
That
do
is
know.
the
Unfortunately,
song.
that song is forever sullied by being in Boogie Nights.
I pretend that didn't happen.
I know. I just thought that was always funny that was the song they picked for him to sing. So that's awesome. Yeah, Transformers. I remember when that came out. I never saw it in the theater, but my friends were all shook
Oh yes,
when
absolutely.
they came back.
And
Same
so much so that when they released the G.I. Joe movie,
I remember that. It went straight to TV, didn't
straight
it?
to TV, first of all, and secondly, Duke was supposed to die in that movie.
Yes, he
and they
was.
decided that he would not because of the outrage and backlash from Optimus Prime dying.
Oh,
so
wow.
Duke does not die; he just
I do
goes
remember
into a
that
coma.
movie. He goes into a coma. Sounds like a soap opera.
You know,
I know.
it really does.
All right, so
Nathan, what's your new
this is
number
in my
one?
list. Okay, so because I just watched this recently. Actually, there's two movies on my list that I just watched recently. And my list is actually, I'm looking at this list now and going, these are all on Amazon Prime now. So I've gone back and watched them all. Okay, so mid-90s, there was a little bit of a surge of underwater adventures. You had three movies that came out with basically within a year of each other. One of them is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and that would be The Abyss.
The Abyss.
The Abyss is a fantastic
good.
movie.
So good.
Awesome movie. There was Deep Star 6, which was another monster movie underwater, which was directed, I think if it was Sean S. Cunningham who brought us Friday the 13th. And it was meant to be a B movie. It was meant to be cheesy. But the one that does not hold up is the third one, and that is Leviathan. Yeah.
Should've guessed.
So Leviathan, which had a stellar cast, right? It's Peter Weller. Richard Crenna, I think, is also in there.
Yeah, he is
Daniel
actually.
Stern, early Daniel Stern
Yeah.
before Wonder Years. It's a typical underwater. They are a mining company underwater. What was interesting was the two movies that preceded The Abyss had moderate, water tank scenes that they filmed in. Only The Abyss actually filmed underwater. So you can very much tell in Leviathan that they are on a soundstage with dust being blown around that's supposed to look like underwater. What I loved about the movie and what got me excited about it was Stan Winston did the creature design. And the creature design in Leviathan is actually really cool when you actually see it, but you do not see it very... Oh, Ernie Hudson's is in it.
I think you're right.
Ernie
sensing
Hudson
a
is in
theme.
it. Yeah, it's a theme.
Hector
it's an Ernie,
Elizondo as well.
Yeah, Hector Elizondo, Ernie Hudson, and then Amanda Pays.
Okay.
Yeah, she was an 80s.
Yep, I see that.
Yeah,
here. I
so
looked it up.
So Stan Winston did the creature design, which was it was really awesome. It looked really cool, but you never see it. It was one of those ones that it moves so awkwardly, and it's the typical premise that this creature absorbs everybody in their
Okay.
faces. It's that kind of thing. But what I remember, when I
very much like the It.
yeah, it's kind of
Not
like it.
What was the Thing? Sorry,
The Thing, yeah,
was
it's like the thing. So when I watched it again, what I realized is this movie's boring. It's so boring, and I waited for so long to see the monster because I'd seen the making of it where they showed you close-ups of the actual creature. I wanted to see it in motion, but I think what ended up happening is when it was actually in action, it doesn't look great. It looks great as a statue, but it doesn't look great when it's in motion because it just kind of slides. And so that was a little bit of a disappointment going back and watching it. And like I said, I think it is still on Amazon Prime. At least it's worth seeing just because it's the 80s, right? And, the history behind the fact that everybody was rushing one summer to get all of these. I think it was 89.
It's funny. It's funny that movies go through that where
Yeah.
there'll be, it's time for the volcano movie.
It's time for the volcano movie,
It's time
right?
for the
asteroid
movies.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so everybody goes rushing to make it. Well, that year, and in those instances, we only got 2 movies. In that instance, we got 3
Nice.
in a year. So anyway, that's my first one I want
All
to talk
right.
about. So
Okay.
all right, let's. This time we're going to rotate back around to PJ.
PJ,
Okay.
once
We're going to
again.
go back around to PJ.
All right, I'm gonna go with a movie that again I loved as a kid. I just started. We started watching it with my son a couple nights ago. Actually, my oldest. It's on Disney Plus.
Uh-huh.
It is Tron.
All right. Here we go.
Here we go. One of Luke's favorite movies.
I love this
I'm
movie.
going to be cracking my knuckles here. Go for it, PJ.
No, I love this movie. It is a great movie. But like, if you go back and watch it,
It's rough.
it's rough. Even like you can see how technologically at the time it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But like it's the little things that kind of get to me. Like watching Flynn play the games in the arcade, like that really bothers me now.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just the same clip each time of him shooting, and he always shoots from the right to the left and hits him in the middle.
Oh,
it's like
I honestly have never noticed that.
there's really
It doesn't
no,
look like a very hard
there's
game.
no
It
skill to
doesn't.
this really all in the wrist
No.
skill
Yep.
game that he's playing.
What was
and,
it called? Space
Space
Paranoids.
Paranoids.
Space Paranoids.
But like the whole concept of the movie is pretty interesting.
Well, yeah.
It's very future. I like the light up desk, the huge light up
Oh,
master
that
control
I
program
always
desk.
wanted that. Desk.
Yes, absolutely.
That was a cool
with
desk.
a keypad like that.
Yep.
Like just knowing how programming works and working in the IT sector now, like I really didn't get the point. Like, what was NCOM really like? What was their purpose?
What was NCOM's end game?
right? Apparently taking over the world
Well, I
according
think they were
to the good old MCP.
You probably almost have to go to Tron Legacy maybe to see what NCOM, because obviously at that
Yeah.
point NCOM's making
They're making
like a
operating
Windows
systems.
operating system.
Right.
So- But you're right. In Tron, you don't really get
Yeah,
that,
like
that feeling.
I only got
Alan's whole purpose was like he didn't have a program that his boss gave him to write. He was just writing this security program for the heck of it. It's
And
like,
the boss stole it.
That's not really how.
Yeah.
That's not how companies work. But it's fine. It's totally fine.
It was all about.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
All
I'm
they
fine.
wanted,
I'm fine.
all they wanted was creative acknowledgement. That's what Tron's all about.
That's
it's just
fair.
getting your name on the box.
But I do love this movie, and I still love to watch it. And yes, I'm going to make my kids watch it as well because I think they.
My
need to
kids have
see it.
watched it and love it. I've always been, when we were growing up, Tron, we were like, oh, so technologically cutting edge, and it was in certain
At
parts.
that point.
And so there was in certain parts, and then you realize that like most of the movie is just them on a soundstage, like with black lights and painted with reflective paint,
Yeah,
and then you go,
reflective tape on them.
wait a minute, that's not that cool.
Yeah.
But but at the time, I mean,
It
it's what they
looked
had to
great.
do. They didn't have the technology
Yeah.
like Tron Legacy, where you can make a fully CGI character.
Now, and to be fair, like the light cycle scene is still
The
awesome.
light cycle scene is awesome, always awesome. It always bothered me when they got killed because they would like, who's the guy that the first guy that gets killed and he screams horribly, and I think he jumps off the platform.
Oh, yeah, he jumps off the platform. I don't think we ever had a name for him.
Yeah, he just jumps off the platform and
Oh
kills
no, he
himself.
did have a
Discs.
name. It was
Was,
I just heard it last night. You think you're gonna wipe the floor with me, that guy?
yeah, I don't remember.
I'll
his
remember
name.
it as soon as
Yeah,
we're done
I should,
recording.
I should remember, but
Okay.
I don't.
All right, so Tron. Well, here's the thing. Right before you got here, I threw Tron on the table, and I didn't know if anybody else was going to do it, and I was going to throw it out there if nobody else did, knowing Luke's love for the movie. So there was some
I
discussion.
hope you don't feel bad.
I
But
don't feel bad
Luke
because
made a good point. He did make a good point.
Yeah.
You want to share that
Yeah,
one?
well, I think the way that I looked at Tron, it was so amazing, so amazing. We loved Tron, and then Tron Legacy came out, and that kind of blew Tron away because of just. I mean, you go from like Star Trek to the newer Star Treks. I mean, yeah, the technology
Yeah,
looks different, but it's not. You go from Tron and it's like cardboard figures to Tron Legacy, and it's like this amazing
Fully
graphics.
realized.
Right,
and
right,
even
right,
now,
right.
if you go back and watch it, I watched it on Disney Plus the other day.
It's hard.
CGI moves at such a CGI moves so quickly
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and becoming more and more lifelike and everything, even though with Uncanny Valley and all that. that even Tron Legacy, to a degree, there are certain parts of it that are like don't necessarily hold up that well.
I actually have that downloaded. Like I want to watch later, but I'm still doing.
But it was a good movie. Both of them are great movies. So, all right, Luke, I'm gonna let you go second.
Okay, well, so I have a movie back from 1983.
Okay,
it's actually I saw this in the movie theater, and I had it on my list, and I took it off, and then I put it back on because it's still a great movie. I love to watch it when it's on.
Yeah.
But at the time, obviously, it was very, high tech at the time.
Yeah.
And that's War Games.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So-
War
Yeah.
Games.
War Games is such a great movie, but yet it's so frustrating to watch them and to watch him, try to use, David Lightman using this, really archaic computer.
Yeah. Very archaic computer.
Very
Shall
archaic
we
computer.
play a game?
Yes, shall we play a game? And it also bothered me that he used the voice in the little voice box thing in his home, but then the voice plays everywhere from that
Yes,
point on.
it's like in the Avengers when everybody can talk to each other, and then they had to go back in Ultron and make sure everybody saw that they all had earpieces.
So even when they're in NORAD, you still hear the same voice. I'm like,
Yeah.
he still has the same voice box in here. So
Yes.
so the movie itself did really well. It made 80 million. Still a great movie. They actually came out
Exactly,
with another
yes.
one after that. It's got some great lines in it. Dabney Coleman is in it.
Yes, he is.
Obviously, Matthew Broderick, Ali Sheedy.
Yeah.
Barry Corbin is actually hilarious.
He is very funny in
General
it.
Behringer. I'd piss on a spark plug if it do any good.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So I love that. But the whole concept of at that particular time, obviously Cold War is still very much real.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And the whole Russian aggression, which now Stranger Things is obviously taking
Playing up
advantage
on.
of and playing up on. So again, great movie.
Yes.
But to watch it today with the fact that we're sitting here with laptops in front of us and MacBooks and
and we don't have
iPads
to put our phone onto a giant
Exactly.
thing
and dial
And
things,
and flip all these switches to make sure that the modem actually comes on.
being able to set up a nuclear attack actually looks so much better in today's
Yes, it
today's
does.
graphics.
Yes,
So
it does.
that was mine.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, so this is going to be the only kind of jump into horror movies that I'm going to do in this
Okay.
one.
Like it.
And it was really the first horror movie I ever sat down and watched all the way through. Like I didn't have to sneak out and see bits because I never was really into the Friday the 13th or the Halloween, that anything like that. But I was at a sleepover and we watched House with William Catt.
Oh, I'm trying to remember
And,
if I saw that.
Okay,
It sounds
did that come
familiar.
out?
and George
It's-
Wendt is in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it came out probably 85 or 86, I think. Maybe there was a sequel, House 2, that was more of a comedy. And it is a little bit of a comedy, House is, but House 2 was very much a very bizarre comedy. In fact, it went so far comedy that it was PG-13, kind of like more sci-fi. But the original plot of House was that William Catt is a writer, and he's writing a memoir. I think he's written horror movies or horror novels, if I remember, but he's gone away to he's going through a divorce, and he's writing a novel about his experience in Vietnam. And the reason he's going through a divorce is because his son, when they were at his I think it's his aunt's house, went into the pool and disappeared.
Okay.
So it caused the divorce to happen. The aunt dies. She actually hangs herself, and he inherits the house. So he comes in the house, and it's basically a haunted house story.
Right.
And really what it comes down to is that you find out over the course of the movie that his buddy in Vietnam, who's played by Richard Mall, Big Ben, is that
Big Ben.
Big Ben. Big Ben died, was shot in a firefight, and William Catt's character abandoned him.
Oh.
He told him to shoot him. He said, kill me. And instead, he couldn't do it, so he ran away. And so Ben is tortured and all this. And so it's actually the ghost of Ben who is taking the boy. He is the, possessor. what I remember the most were the makeup effects on Ben were awesome. Like he's this rotting corpse, and it was really cool. But it had a sense of humor to it. You know, he had a machine gun. So your big baddie is not like a slasher.
Okay.
He's a living dead animate ghost. But he's got an M60, and there's monsters in it. There's a monster in the closet that comes out at certain times of night, and it's really kind of a cool looking rubber puppet and all that. But going back and watching it and seeing the Vietnam scenes, they're so bad. They're so bad. Like we hadn't had Platoon yet. I think when this movie came out, maybe we did. It may have been about the same time.
So.
It's 86. So Platoon had probably come out, but I hadn't seen it yet. Having these more like believable war movies and portrayals afterwards, everything's bad about the Vietnam scenes. The tactics, the over the top stereotypes, the acting's bad. Everybody, trying to buy into the guy who was the greatest American hero as a tough guy soldier in Vietnam was just. So I went back and watched it, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Believe it or not, it's just me.
Yeah, and I thought this movie was so cool when I was a kid, and it's this. So House is
Okay.
my second one. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So that's 2 for each of us now, yeah?
Is it 2?
I think that's
I
2.
think it is 2.
So now we're up to the third, huh?
Yes. Well, Leviathan was my other one.
3 comes after 2. So that would
Well, I
make
have
sense.
like 11 on my list, so
I've got a ton
of them. So I have to narrow it down to pick which one's really, really, really.
I'm kind of
All
torn
right.
on my
So
third.
your last one to officially talk about, Nathan, why don't you start
Oh, you want me to
us off?
start?
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta like this. Okay. There's one on my list that is not my official one, but I just have to throw it out there because I know you two still like it.
Okay.
And I had Tim Burton's Batman on here.
Okay. All
I
right.
had Tim Burton's Batman, but
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about that one. I'm not going to talk about one because this one is
No,
not.
I get it.
You get it, yeah. This one is not horror. It's not sci-fi. It's actually a war movie. It's a military movie.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I loved this movie. My dad loved this movie. I watched it over and over and over. It stars Clint Eastwood.
Oh, wait, is this
It's Heartbreak Ridge.
Heartbreak Ridge?
Okay.
Heartbreak
Yes.
Ridge was an awesome movie when I saw it. Just Clint Eastwood's character, Gunnery Sergeant Highway, who is the man's man, tough guy.
My favorite one, Swede.
Yeah.
Swede.
And he's transferred because nobody really knows what to do with him because he's this aging relic of the Marines from years and decades ago, and the Marines are the new Marines kind of thing. So it's basically old school versus new school storyline. And he's assigned to take over the recon platoon. And there are a bunch of misfits. Nobody wants them. And Mario Van Peebles is in it, and he plays one of the guys in the recon, though at first you don't know he is. He plays Stitch Jones, who is a traveling musician when he's not on base. It's just, it's kind of like he comes in and he whips all the misfits into shape. And then it actually takes place during Grenada. So they go to Grenada and they fight, and, they obviously, they do their good deed and soldiery thing, and they come out. But watching it, it's so cliche and stereotyped. Everything about it. When they deliver, I love Clint Eastwood, but when he delivers these, over the top, Marine Corps type slogans and sayings, there's a couple scenes that are really good. My favorite one was, "This is the AK-47 assault rifle. It's the preferred weapon of our enemy. It makes a distinct sound when fired at you. Learn it," because he's shooting live rounds at the guys.
Oops.
That's a great scene. But then a lot of it is just
Yeah.
poor Clint, man. This is a great movie, but it really is bad. It's really bad when you really dig down into it.
And of course, it has the stereotypical, he's the big time Marine who has an ex-wife and he wants to get back with the ex-wife.
And so he's reading
know,
Cosmopolitan trying to figure out how to get back together with her. But there is one thing that always, and it was the one thing my dad...
Always the place to go.
So when they show up in Grenada, it's amazing. So they show up in Grenada, the guys are all getting ready, and they've taken their camo paint and they've kind of streaked it on their faces. And Clint walks out with this, perfect camouflage print painted on his face. And it's like... Who did he hire to do that? Because it's beautiful. Every line is perfect. And it's just you're telling me that this guy sat in the bathroom in the midst of a deployment,
For
sitting
7
there
hours.
putting this makeup on. So, yeah.
I think the other part of them, I loved that movie too. So I have to say it was a great movie. I'd watch it whenever it's on. But I think the one thing that always bugged me too is that I feel like Clint goes a little over the top with the I gotta have a really raspy voice. His voice is like it feels like he's just chewing on rocks, and it does annoy you.
Really, it's like you're a Marine, you improvise, you adapt.
Exactly. So I'm just
it's like that. So
yeah.
anyway,
so
that's
it's
mine.
hard to listen to.
That's Heartbreak Ridge. All right, Luke, let's go to you.
All right, so I had a couple. So I actually had The Last Starfighter on my list.
Okay,
but I kind of, it's not on my. It's not going to be one, but I wanted to mention that one because that one I'm really looking forward to the sequel.
Also on my honorable mention.
Is it on? I didn't even actually have it on my honorable mention.
So I have one I'm pretty sure is probably not on either of yours. It's actually a movie that I will watch when it's on.
Okay.
But it's really, really cheesy. It stars O.J. Simpson. It's not Naked Gun.
Okay.
Oh, is this the one where he's got the head sewn to him?
No,
this
is
that was not him. That was Rosie Greer.
him.
That was Rosie Greer.
That was Rosie Greer. This is actually a movie that came out in 1978, and it's a depiction of us landing on Mars. It's called Capricorn 1.
Oh, I remember that.
Capricorn 1. So it was supposed to be three guys: Brubaker, Willis, and Walker. And they're sitting basically at the top of the rocket, very start of the movie. And Hal Holbrook, always plays older guy.
Yeah, he does the wisdom.
Always plays, kind of you think he's a good guy, but he's actually a bad guy kind of guy. He's a bad guy. Works for the government, comes in and says, "Okay, you guys all have to get out." And they get out of the rocket. The rocket takes off, and it's basically a faking of the Mars landing. So they take them off to some desert hangar, and they force them to pretend that they landed on Mars.
Gotcha.
Elliot Gould.
Yes, he is in it. He's the journalist.
He's a journalist who begins to question and figure out why there's such a delay in the time. Why are the communications coming a lot quicker? Because it's supposed to only take a certain amount of time. I don't remember the exact time, but he deceives. He figures out the deception. But anyway, O.J. Simpson plays one of the astronauts. He actually dies, and
of course,
because
he's a black man.
Well, thank you, Nathan, for pointing out the obvious.
In a movie in the 70s, unfortunately, that was the trope.
Because again, Hal Holbrook tells them that, we're going to reunite you with your families when you land, but in reality, they actually make it seem like that they died on reentry.
Okay.
And so then they have to kill them, and so anyway.
Yes. In fact, the tagline for the movie, I just looked it up, was "The mission was a sham. The murders were real."
Dun, dun, dun.
Directed by, though, another space guy, Peter Hames.
Peter Hames, who did Outland.
Yeah, Outland and 2010. So, which is another one of my honorable mention movies, by the way, 2010.
Okay.
Which I really liked it.
That would be one I disagree with you that it doesn't hold up. I think 2010 holds up.
Really?
Yeah.
So him on an Apple IIc looking
up.
Well,
okay, but I'm not talking about the technology part. I'm just talking about just the absolute cheese.
That's why it's not my top 3.
Special effects wise, 2010 holds up very well. And in fact, to this day, I still can't figure out. I mean, I know how they did it, but the scene where he sticks the pen in low gravity and it sticks there.
Yeah,
such a great part.
It's such a great part.
And then he hits it and it spins away.
And there's other great parts, but there's still the obviously the old. He's reading Omni magazine.
Yes, he is reading Omni magazine.
They talk about the Houston Astrodome and how it has the best hot dogs and
that is true.
Stuff like that. So anyway, but it's not on my top 3. Obviously.
All right,
so here we go.
There you go, PJ.
All right, my last one,
the final one,
might be a little controversial.
Better check my list.
Oh boy!
It was the first what I would consider heavy sci-fi movie I remember seeing.
Okay, the first hard sci-fi, heavy sci-fi. Yeah,
more not just like a pulp sci-fi kind of thing, but like heavy sci-fi. It's Dune.
Dune. Oh, Dune ranks up there with one of the worst movies of all time.
I would have,
but I loved it.
It's a great, but it's so good in its badness.
Yeah.
Yes. I would agree.
And part of why I love the movie. So I remember seeing it with my sister, and I think we saw it at the theater together.
I wasn't allowed to see it in the theater. My dad saw it first.
Okay.
He wasn't. Now I have a question.
It was a weird movie.
When you're done talking about it, I have a question. If you ever got what they gave my dad in the theater, when he went and saw it, they gave him a glossary of terms.
No,
There was a
maybe
sheet-
we didn't see this one in the theater, but
They had a sheet printed out with all the terms
Uh-huh.
so that you would know what the heck they were talking about.
and that's what I mean by heavy sci-fi. Like
Yeah.
there was so much lore, and I mean, you talk about like we kind of were upset a little bit about how we need a book and several other books to help us understand the latest
Exactly.
Star Wars
Yeah.
movie. This is one where you needed a glossary of terms to
Exactly.
understand what the heck was going on. I remember liking this movie and not having any clue how to explain it to anybody after I saw it.
Yeah.
Because I was like 10 or 11 when I saw it. I mean, can you imagine seeing this movie at 10 or 11?
Yeah.
There's no way you understand it. But I
It's almost like watching Crawl at 10 or 11.
I'll get there in a minute. But I just remember like just the idea of okay, like there's these three houses, they're all
Yeah.
at war with each other. These two really hate each other. These two are kind of aligned, but it's a tenuous alliance, and figure all this out later.
And it's-
Sci-Fi had a series they
that
brought
was
later,
That was closer to the novels. It wasn't
Yeah.
great, but it was closer to the books.
but like. And there's certain images that you just can't get out of your head. The first one is the weird spice creature.
The
at
third
the beginning.
stage guild navigator.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that thing is not right.
Yeah, he's not right. Well, and it was also
then-
David Lynch.
Yeah,
Yeah. So of course, enough said.
Yeah.
and then of course, Sting in the little thing he had on.
Sting in the
Sting in the
thong with
thing.
wings.
Sting
winged
and
thong.
the thing.
Yeah.
And
The winged
like-
thong.
and
Yeah,
just,
that was
and just
weird.
going, wait,
What?
what?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember just loving the movie, and I remember freaking my sister out because I could do the little Aaliyah's voice, like
Oh my
'cause
gosh,
my voice
you-
was
you
that
could.
range, and be
Do you know who-
my brother Baron.
Do you know who
And-
that is? Go look it up. That's actually an actress who you would grow up for. Do some stuff that we would know later on.
Okay. But I remember, and I'd freak my sister out because I'd say lines from the movie that in her voice to my sister. But yeah, that was so Dune's my last.
I'm
one.
excited that we're getting another version.
I was gonna say there's a
Oh,
there's
I
another
There
one
is,
coming out.
and I always forget his name wrong. Denis Villeneuve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So who did?
Villeneuve, yeah.
And I know I butchered his name, so don't.
Eric Roth.
All right, I'm in.
So who did Blade Runner?
Yeah.
2049, and also did Arrival and all that. He is now doing, and it's coming out later this year at Christmas. He is now doing a version of Dune.
Okay.
And it sounds like, one, he's not trying to do it in one movie. He's actually trying to do it as multiple movies.
Good, because that movie is so dense.
But here's the thing. You cannot get around the fact that there were some great actors in that version.
yeah.
You've got Patrick Stewart as Gurney Halleck.
Yeah.
Max von Sydow is Kynes. Jurgen Prochnow is Duke Leto.
Yep.
What I do remember at that movie is it's so gross.
Yeah.
Having read the books are not gross. That movie is gross. And they made up so many things that aren't in the books.
Well, and when you have lore that's already that thick, why do you need to do that?
Well, and I think that was the whole David Lynch. But I got to read you
Yeah.
the new version of Dune. I got to read you some of the cast because you're going to love this. Okay. I didn't know you didn't know
I got
about
a couple
this.
of these too, so go ahead.
These are really good. Okay, so here is as Paul Atreides, Timothée Chalamet. Okay, so he fits the profile.
Yeah.
Duncan, Idaho, Jason Momoa,
Interesting.
the swordsman.
Okay.
Shawnee is Zendaya.
Now I'm assuming it's not the Jason that takes his arms off.
No, it's not that guy. Okay, this is Beast Raban.
Uh-huh.
Take a guess.
Just hit me
Go to
with it.
Guardians.
Dave Bautista.
Okay.
All
right.
Gurney Halleck.
Yeah.
Take a guess.
I had no clue.
Josh Brolin.
Okay.
That looks, so basically Cable being
Yeah.
Gurney Halleck. Oscar Isaac is Duke Leto.
Yeah.
So Poe Dameron is Duke Leto. Javier Bardem is Stilgar.
Yep.
Okay.
So Stellan Skarsgård is Vladimir Harkonnen. He's the Baron.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's all these great actors that have been and actresses. Rebecca Ferguson is Lady Jessica. So
Okay.
Mission Impossible, Dr. Sleep. I think she's awesome. And she fits it very well. And so, he's got this version. And finally, Dr. Yui is actually Asian.
Okay.
instead of being Dean Stockwell, who they tried to make look Asian.
Yeah, it was odd.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it because it comes out at Christmas. But I agree with you, Dune.
I could buy that.
All
Yeah,
right.
I can definitely buy that. So
All right, so let's.
you want to
hear
do our
your-
honorable mentions?
Yeah. Let's just kind of run them through.
Okay, I'm going to run it through real quick. Here's my honorable mentions. Okay. 1, Tim Burton's Batman.
Okay.
2, Footloose.
Oh, that's so good. And so bad. Yep.
3, Willow.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't really hold up. Watched it the other day.
No, fair.
4, Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid.
I love Dreamscape.
But
You're
it
right
is
about that.
it is bad when you
Yeah,
watch it now.
Max von Sydow and what's the girl?
Kate
What's her name?
Capshaw.
Kate Capshaw. Thank you.
Hardware,
Okay.
if you remember that one from the early 90s. Inner Space, still funny, doesn't necessarily hold up very well.
Yeah.
The Black Hole,
Yeah, real bad.
I'd go for that.
yeah, and every Adam Sandler movie before 2000.
Fair. All right. My list is short. Last Starfighter. We
yeah,
talked about
I
a
can see
little
that.
bit
Yeah,
ago. Krull, which we all went and saw the riff tracks of.
I'm going to debate you on that, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm debating you in my mind.
Okay. Maybe we'll talk later.
We can talk later. No, I agree with you. There are parts of Krull that are just awful.
And here's one that does real genius.
You and I are about ready to fight.
I am
You and I
done.
are going to fight.
I don't think it
I'm with
holds
you.
up, but I still love the movie. Don't get me wrong.
Wow.
See,
We're about
I
to
made
throw
this
down,
more. I
Nathan.
made this more as a guilty pleasures. Like I'm gonna watch this anytime it comes on because I love that movie.
Oh, Real Genius
Real
is not a guilty
Genius.
pleasure for me. It is. I will accept it, but Real Genius is like in my top 10 of all time.
Okay.
I'm gonna file it under A for toy.
Nice.
Is this kind of a dream when you're standing there in sun god robes on a pyramid and there's 1,000 screaming naked women throwing little pickles
at you.
Why am I the only one that has that dream? Peak Val Kilmer. Everything
you're
after
killing
Real
it.
Genius.
Also true.
Everything after Real Genius was. I don't even.
You want us
can't-
to party with beauticians? They're not beauticians yet.
student beauticians. I mean, Doc Holliday Val Kilmer is not as good as that Val Kilmer. Chris Val Kilmer.
I love that movie. All right, Luke, what do you got?
Honorable mentions. All right, so I know we've talked about this movie, Megaforce.
I had Megaforce and I took it
Yep.
off my list.
Yep, Megaforce. Ace Hunter. Another
Ace
one of those
Hunter.
great
Oh,
movies.
Barry Bostwick on a flying
Oh,
motorcycle
it was awesome.
and pastels.
The Ice Pirates.
Ice Pirates, another
Yep,
good one.
Another good one. Robert Urich.
Space herpes.
I had the Beastmaster. If you remember the
I
Beastmaster.
Yeah.
do know the
yeah.
Beastmaster.
That
Saw it
was
many, many
another-
times.
That was another
Beastmaster,
one. Yeah, that was another one that was on HBO. I watched it all the time.
directed by
whenever
Don
it was on.
Coscarelli, who made Phantasm.
And Mark Singer.
Yep,
Great
Mark
movie,
Singer.
Rip Torn. We also have Top Gun. I had Top Gun on there just because I just
Really?
can't watch. I can't watch the fight scenes. They're just so
it's so-
cheesy.
Even the flight scenes are cheesy to you?
Well, yeah, because it's just not real.
It isn't real,
It's
but
just so fake.
It's not
So-
real. Okay.
But wait till you see the sequel.
Oh, I'm totally on board with the
I'm
sequel.
totally on board with the sequel because it
Don't
looks
get me
so
wrong.
cool.
It's going to end up.
See, you and I might fight about Top Gun then. 'Cause
Well, here's the thing. I think as
love
soon
that
as you
movie.
watch the second one, you're going to go back and go, "Oh,
It's going to be a
first
Tron.
one,
We're going to call that Troning the movie
the
from now.
Troning the movie.
We have
When-
now coined
when
a
the
term.
when the sequel
when the
makes
sequel
the
trumps the
original
first
look so
one,
bad.
yeah, it's called Troning.
Got a couple others. So Towering Inferno. That was
Okay.
one I watched
Yeah.
a lot as a kid.
Did you
and
watch Poseidon Adventure a lot?
I did. The
Yeah,
old one.
I did
Yeah,
too.
that was good.
Poor Shelley Winters.
I like that one as well. Concord Airport 79.
Oh,
Super cheesy.
Yeah.
Super cheesy, but good.
Concord
and then
79.
one that I actually had on the list and then took it off in favor of Space Hunter because I wanted to go 3D was a movie called Treasure of the
Four Crowns.
Yep.
Yes.
So I
That
remember
was-
seeing that in the movie theater. Too.
That was an Italian movie.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
that
a-
was super dubbed.
Yep, super dubbed, but super cool because it was 3D and it was about a
Yeah.
guy trying to find 4 gems. It was very Raiders of the Lost Ark.
It was. They had hang gliders and
so
everything.
anyway, that was
Do you
on.
remember? Speaking of which, in those HBO movies that I always played, there were 2 movies that always came on that I always watched. There was one called Dance of the Dwarves
Okay.
with Peter Fonda, that was really creepy, but pretty good. And then there was Kill and Kill Again
Okay.
It was kind of like a Mortal Kombat where these guys got taken to an island for a competition of martial
I
arts,
remember
and
that.
so
Actually, another one that was on there a lot is Time Bandits.
Time Bandits,
Yeah.
Terry
Love
Gilliam,
Time Bandits.
love Time Bandits. It's a good movie. So, all right. So you probably have some ideas. You probably have some inputs, and maybe you have some movies that we stated here that you want to fight us over, like Real Genius.
Like Real Genius.
It was called the Real Genius Incident. So you can. You can get a hold of us on the website at thegeekosphere.net. You can also find us on Instagram at who remembers what that is?
Geekosphere Podcast.
Geekosphere Podcast. And Luke, you're on Twitter with
I am. That one is Geekosphere Podcast at the Geekosphere.
Geekosphere Podcast at the Geekosphere. PJ manages the website, and he's also posting articles and reviews all the time.
Yep.
And you know what? Hey, thanks for listening.
You can reach us at podcast@thegeekosphere.net.
Podcast at thegeekosphere.net, and hopefully you enjoy us just kind of riffing on what we love and talking about movies that are near and dear to our heart, but yet we have to acknowledge the cinematic I don't even know what to call them anymore. So
Beautiness.
yeah, kind of just okay, maybe they aren't that great anymore. Beautification, yeah.
Beauticians.
So
There you go.
student beauticians. All right. Until next time, this is Nathan, PJ, and Luke, and we are out.
See ya.
Bye.